Hey everyone, welcome back to Doctor Who Week, and today I'm going to review Delta and the Bannermen. Delta and the Bannermen is a significant story, depending on who you talk to. See, the general consensus of Sylvester McCoy season is a little weird. It's either the worst season ever, or a mixed bag. No one's claiming it's a perfect season, I will state that. And my challenge, well, okay, fine, not really a challenge. I don't know why, but just the title itself of today's story, Delta and the Bannermen, just made me say, okay, sure, why not? To be fair, I first heard that title and said, I might buy that album. That band sounded awesome in the 80s. No, no, no. The title is only an homage to a band in the 80s, not an actual band in the 80s. Till you actually see the Bannermen and you're questioning whether or not you're watching a really long music video and you're just at the part where, there's no music. What doesn't help is the fact that this whole serial is sprinkled, just covered with 50s music. Now let me give you a rundown of this story here, and I'll do my best. So, it opens up on this war that takes place in that quarry where they either film fight scenes for Doctor Who or the fight scenes for Power Rangers. Doctor Who won out this round, where we see the Bannermen, who all look like they escaped from the Dark Knight Returns, judging from their sunglasses, and they're all ran by Garrick, who, among a lot of things, is having way too much fun with this role, and I can't blame him. That's the key thing you're going to hear from me when I cover any of the stories here. Almost everyone's having fun. And that's going to translate to you having fun. Now, they're trying to basically kill off this race called the Shimmerons, who, from what I can tell, look like they evolved from melted Army Men toys. I don't know, they just chose the costume design. Oh, and also, randomly, their princess looks nothing like them. I don't know if that's an outfit or what, but, again, I'll save that part for later. So she takes an egg, or giant Christmas ornament, I could never tell, and tries to run off. Cut to Doctor and Melanie. I didn't cover Mel before, I will say this. She has a scream that could kill Daleks from 50 miles away, and hair that was so goddamn 80s I think Kiss is afraid of it. They find themselves on this space station where they found out they won a trip to Disneyland. No, that's not a joke in my script, that's literally what happened. And they, of course, go on this tour bus. It is a spaceship, but they disguised it as a tour bus. It's totally not just a regular bus that they attached a really crappy rocket pack accessory onto the back and made it look like it could fly. So, of course, they don't make it to Disneyland. I'll let your sadness take over for mine. And they find themselves in Shangri-La. And of course, we find out that the princess, whose name is Delta, which is where the other part of the title comes from, stowed away on the ship with them. Here we meet the guy who owns Shangri-La, who is completely ridiculous, but again, having a ball with his role. Billy, who is way too comfortable with the shit he's about to see in this story. And Ray. Her real name's Rachel, but I'm calling her Ray. And I will have to say, I want a piece of that. Sorry. I'm making up for not pointing out how hot Susan was in the Unearthly Child review. I'm just covering all my bases. And I got a text message. Anyway. So the Bannermen come. And they're causing all kinds of shenanigans. The baby hatches. Wait, what? Meanwhile, we have some goofy-looking agents from the States, who you can tell are from the States because one of them is wearing a Yankees cap. A version of the Yankees cap that they don't even have available in the 50s, more along the lines of the 80s, but again, if I keep nitpicking, things will be here all week. And, of course, the Bannermen come, the baby hatches. Let's look at that adorable... Good God, it looks like a can of spinach that was 50 years old gave birth to the Grinch. Ugh. If this prop disgusts you, don't worry. They establish some weird mumbo-jumbo that makes the baby grow into a 16-year-old by the end of the story. I think it has to do with this weird baby food they feed it. I'm pretty sure it does, because Billy, who, at the sight of seeing an alien baby in the arms of a woman that he magically fell in love with 5 minutes ago, don't ask, it's confusing to me too, is basically going, oh, okay, another planet, alien baby, want to go for a picnic? See what I mean? He's just taking us all in stride. Then he decides to eat the baby food. Mind you, baby food is delicious. I've tried some myself. Fruit kind's the best. You now know something weird about me. And we find out that this food has something to do with the baby's body chemistry, because it starts changing him into an alien. Billy's response is, oh well. Seriously, undeterred by anything. I'd be losing my mind. And apparently I'm overloading my cell phone with all the constant texting I'm getting, but I will deal with that later. And of course, this leads to a love triangle between Ray, who is magically in love with Billy. Why, I'm not exactly sure, because from the looks of it, this guy just seems to be the most lively guy around. Okay, fine, no, he doesn't. He looks like he's dressed like the Fonz, but he's just kind of generic and probably the weaker performer here. Now let's get back to get to the whole shebang here. Now, the Doctor here, here's the thing about McCoy's first season that's really weird. For the most part, he just kept trying to play the clown. And the thing is, I've only seen one other story from this season. Besides this, and that was his first. A lot of it ain't that funny. And that's the painful part. Here, he's still playing the clown role of sorts, but he's also trying really hard to be that commanding Doctor who's trying to take a hold of the situation. Basically, what the rest of his run on television will be like. And I love seeing that. I loved him here. Again, he's having the same amount of fun with the story. Not to mention it's cool to watch him riding a motorcycle be a little bit more proactive than I'm used to. He's trying to be strong, and I love that. His companion, however, Mel, is more preoccupied with having fun. Though there is a moment where, I'm not going to exactly spoil it because it's just too cool to spoil, but where you kind of identify with her, because it's one of those situations where where you look at it and say, that could have been me. If you were there. You were just a few seconds away from whatever was about to happen, and it's a big tragedy. And that part, you can see, she's really trying to play off the terror. Other than that, she's screaming and, well, for the most part, annoying the hell out of Delta. Delta's not exactly lively, but she's just playing the generic, okay, fine. Let me reset this here. Delta is not exactly showing as much fun as anyone else is in this story, but I think that's simply because she's trying to convey the fact that her entire species is about to be wiped out. So I accept that. Let's go to Billy. Billy's just, again, weak, probably the weakest performance. He's not embracing the fun of it at all. And that's the thing I find weak. Ray, I loved Ray. In fact, Ray was actually going to be a companion. But from one of the stories I've heard... okay, let me explain this before I go on. Bonnie Langford, who plays Mel, was planning on leaving. And they were trying to figure out a new companion. So they had two writers write two different stories with a character who'd be the companion, and then the producer, John Nathan Turner, would basically choose which one was a stronger story to end on. Which resulted in Ray just being left there and eventually going with Ace, whose first debut was in that story. Which is fine, but it's kind of a sad thing, because I really did like Ray. She works really well with Sylvester, and I really do regret it. I hope that somehow they bring the character back so they can do a big finish of some sort. I mean, Big Finish's main purpose is to fill any plot, any gap in continuity we can find, even if it is necessary or not to some people, but whatever. Down to the villains. There's only two things you have to focus about. None of the Bannermen are really individual. They're all just kind of hissing and being soldiers. Their leader, Gavrok, however, is just playing the insane leader of an army amazingly. Having fun and no real motivation given, of course, but again, he's just so much fun to watch. Oh, and those U.S. agents I mentioned, yeah, they're not worth remembering either. I'm sorry. I'm not saying they were bad, but their subplot went nowhere, and they were having fun with it, but they didn't do anything memorable besides being captured by the Bannermen, who plainly established that they kill anyone on sight. We are the Bannermen! We kill everyone! Except these two! Because... Shut up. And if anyone gets to me, yeah, I know there are a lot of characters. That's the thing. There are a lot of people in this three-part story. Now let's get on to the story itself. Like I said, it's fun, but I also love how different it is. For one thing, I don't think they never did a period piece in the 50s like this before. An important thing I want to add before I go on is the story structure. See, around this time, they only had 14 total episodes a season. So instead of doing what they did with the previous season, Trial of a Time Lord, doing 3 4-parters and a 2-parter, they did 2 4-parters and 2 3-parters to even it out. 3-part stories, I think, work amazingly because it has to follow the 3-act structure. See, and in a lot of stories, particularly somewhat longer stories, hell, even some stories that were 4 episodes, tend to have an one problem I tend to find is you easily could have shortened it by an episode or 2 in certain cases. I have a couple where I've had that experience. And the 3-part works good on that. That was embracing more of the fun, I guess you can say, and plays a lot of 50s music, which again is really different for the show. Especially during this period where, and I didn't mention it in my Battlefield review, which I probably should have, the background music in this era is awful. It's all synthesized, and it might have worked for the 80s, and maybe you'll like it for its cheese factor, but it just doesn't sound that good. The only thing I could bear is the theme song, which I think you can just blame to me falling for the cheese factor there, but the rest of it's just kind of doesn't have a mood to it. It just doesn't work. That's why the 50s music is really good. For a lot of it's, fairly good songs you can bob your head to. What the 50s is kind of known for. Another thing is how this story manages to be fun, but have some insanely dark moments. Again, I don't want to spoil any of them because you don't see them coming, and it's insane. But still, I love that. It's actually trying to be extremely different. So, all in all, I think this is a really good story to go out and get on its own. No prior knowledge needed. Most of the cast is having a ball, and you definitely get your bang for your buck. Again, I really do recommend you check this one out.